All right, we are back on the record after a short break, and now we are continuing with the adverse examination of Secretary Kevin Carr from the DOC. And Mr. Cross, will you continue, please? Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So I guess I just need to be clear, and maybe I've asked this before, but did the disciplinary investigation into this escape start because you asked it to? Did you initiate this investigation?
I guess I would just ask that the question be clarified. We've already established that there's more than one disciplinary investigation in this case.
Sure, and I appreciate that feedback, and I'll be happy to clarify. We're talking about Warden Novak. Did you initiate the investigation into Warden Novak?
No.
Okay, do you know who did?
No.
No? Other than you, who would have the authority to authorize investigations?
As I stated earlier, the internal investigation started with trying to determine the scope of who was involved in whatever capacity in the escape. And as I said, once the investigation is approved by Internal Affairs to be conducted, and it can be usually there's a document that called a 15807 that is created that starts an internal investigation. And that's why I said earlier, any number of people can request that, fill out that document and ask that an internal affairs investigation be conducted. And then it's reviewed by Internal Affairs, and then they approve the investigation. Sometimes an event like this will occur, and I will say to somebody, and I don't recall, and that's why this is a long answer. I do not recall who I said, hey, let's open an investigation on this escape, and who is going to be involved in it? We don't know until they start looking at it. I probably told Magda Fesahaya to, request that an investigation be opened.
Okay.
Because that would have been her division. She was in charge.
At the adult division, right?
Of the adult division. She was the administrator of the adult institutions.
And do you know who Doug Percy is?
I do.
Okay. At that time, do you know if Doug Percy reported to the administrator of the adult division?
He did.
Okay. And it was direct report or something else?
Direct report.
Okay. And then do you know if Warden Novak reported to Doug Percy or something else?
I believe he did.
Okay.
I mean, she did. Sorry.
No problem. Okay. So then the investigation is started. Is it clear to you that it's going to be conducted by Internal Affairs?
Yes.
Why?
Because of the gravity of the situation. We created Internal Affairs so that they could investigate serious allegations of misconduct and investigations involving the misconduct of supervisors, because we didn't want supervisors investigating themselves as it was done prior to my arrival.
Okay. So for example, so you didn't want Doug Percy investigating the escape, right?
No, Doug Percy was the assistant administrator of the Division of Adult Institutions. His office was here at headquarters, okay. Along with Magda Fesahaya. There's one administrator and two deputy administrators in the Division of Adult Institutions. They both have, all three of them have offices in our building in Madison.
Okay. And so how was Doug Percy not supervising Columbia Correctional Institution?
Because each of the two deputy administrators have divided all 37 of our institutions into two. Each one is responsible for a certain number of institutions.
Okay.
Doug Percy was responsible for Columbia.
Okay. And that's one of the reasons why you didn't want him investigating, right?
No, it wasn't. No, not at all.
Okay.
I mean, again, like I said earlier, I don't determine who gets investigated based on the facts. Once the Internal Affairs Unit starts investigating, they go where the facts lead them. They may say, hey, Secretary, we've uncovered some information that implicates this person. And I'd say, well, okay, do what you got to do. That's it. I don't say, don't investigate that person. Don't do this, don't do that. I mean, they have to remain somewhat independent in how they conduct their investigations and the scope of those investigations.
Okay.
Once it gets done, I can look at it and say, I don't think that this is important or that is important. But, you know, that's not what we're talking about.
Did anybody come to you at any time and say, hey, we're going to expand this investigation?
Yes.
Okay. Who came to you?
I don't recall. I'm not going to speculate.
Well, do you know what position that person holds?
No.
Okay. Is there an office that person represents?
You know, the way that our system works, I am not 100% certain, but it might have been the director of the Internal Affairs Office, Chrissy Preston. She is the person that I talk to about internal investigations. She leads that unit, and she would have been integrally involved in this investigation and directing the investigation from the Internal Affairs side of the house.
Okay, Chrissy Preston?
Yes.
Okay. So, I guess what information did she bring to you that led you to authorize widening the scope of the investigation?
I think that's sort of stating what took place. She may have just, in fact, I don't really, to answer your question directly, I don't recall what information that she brought to me that that justified expanding the case. But I will say that at some point, I received information that did, not seemed, but did suggest that it would be proper to widen the scope of the investigation beyond just the line officers who were involved and consider whether or not the supervisors of the folks involved in this incident had been doing their jobs.
Okay. And it's because you're so certain as to how clear you were that that information did implicate others, are you able to tell us what that information was?
I'm going to object to asked and answered.
I think he has tried to answer it as best as he can, so we're going to move on.
Well, okay, but I'm guess I'm not clear. You're able to say for sure that you know that this information did implicate people higher than the line officers, right?
That's correct.
Okay, but you don't remember what it was.
Well, I don't remember everything. Okay, it was 3 years ago. I have not reviewed any documents other than that one item that was on the screen earlier today. But my recollection is that the security director was responsible for updating post orders for the line staff and failed to do so. And the person that oversaw his work was the deputy warden at Columbia Correctional. And obviously, the fence issue that we discussed earlier, who knew what, when, and what did they do about it? And those types of issues are primarily in the domain of the senior management of the institution. It's not up to line officers to, modify and draft post orders, which tells them how to do their job. That was the security director's job. And it was the deputy warden's job to make sure that the security director did his job. And it was the warden's job to make sure that the deputy warden did his job. That's just the way it goes.
Whose job was it to install the fence?
I'm going to object. Again, it's irrelevant.
Sustained.
It's irrelevant. I got to be clear, Judge. It's irrelevant about the fence.
The physical installation of the fence, yes, that's irrelevant. He already testified that the process for requesting that the fence be changed and how you would initiate that, as to actually who does that, who does the work to do that, well, that's a different story. And since it didn't actually happen, that somebody requested it until after the breakout, I don't see how it's relevant. So let's move on.
Judge, that's not the evidence at all. It's not the evidence that somebody didn't request it to until after the breakout. The evidence is,
so far as I know, that is the evidence. Unless you can show me otherwise, that from this witness's perspective, we're not talking about it.
Well, he didn't say what you said, so I guess we're going to have to get clear on those notes and so forth, because we got the tape. But he didn't say that that it just occurred in a vacuum and that he had no idea. What he said was that he had no idea, that he didn't say the Department of Corrections. He was very clear that there was employees who knew that the condition of this fence. And so He's also just said that it was appropriate to hold people responsible. Well, one of the things
and your question, no, stop. Your question to him was who installed the fence?
Sure.
I'm sorry. They hire all sorts of contractors to install fences. That is not the question. Ask a relevant question.
Okay, Judge, I understand. Thank you. Secretary Carr, do you know what the accusations were against Warden Novak?
Objection. He's already testified he hasn't seen those documents.
Secretary Carr, do you recall when there was a decision to look into management? Was there any information provided to you regarding specifically Warden Novak and why she should be investigated along with the other supervisory staff?
No.
Okay, go ahead then.
Okay, and you never discussed that with Internal Affairs anytime?
I may have discussed the fact that they needed to follow the evidence wherever it led, up to and including the supervisory team at Columbia Correctional. That's the only fair and proper way to conduct an investigation.
Okay, so you didn't say, but I want to be clear. So that meant to, or let me say, did you mean when you said that to Internal Affairs that they were not to investigate Doug Percy?
No.
Okay, but was it clear that they was to be limited to the warden?
No, wherever it led.
Well, what words did you just use? At the institutional level, right?
Sure.
What does that mean?
Okay, well, and since Doug Percy was responsible for Columbia, that would have included him.
Okay. So then at any time, did anybody come back to you and discuss the fence issue with regard to Warden Novak?
Not that I recall.
Okay. So you never learned at any time that Warden Novak were aware of the charges against Warden Novak. Is that right?
I never,
Just going to be
I know
clear on the
this is
record
the
here
same
that the
question you
witnesses.
just asked that Eric, my attorney objected to, but no, I have not seen her packet. So I don't know what the findings were.
That's not my question, sir. My question to you was, were you aware at any time of the charges against Warden Novak?
Objection asked and answered.
Okay, I think there's a word change issue that's going on here. So we originally discussed when you determined that they should just go ahead and start looking at the supervisors, including the warden possibly. But that was a decision they were going to make, correct, Secretary Carr? Okay, so at any point then before Ms. Novak, Warden Novak retired, were you given any updates that would indicate that they were looking into specific issues regarding her conduct?
I believe that I may have received some update at some point as to the status of the investigation and how long it was going to take for them to finish it, and what what the preliminary findings may be.
Okay.
And did any of those include Warden Novak?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Did
Go
any
ahead,
of that
Mr.
include the
Cross.
fence?
I'm sorry, can you say it again, please?
Did any of those updates include the fence?
It included information about the fence, because obviously the fact that the fence wasn't operational and had been installed backwards was a significant aspect of the investigation, because it enabled the two escapees to defeat what should have been a stun fence that would have prohibited them from being able to escape. So the fact that it was in that state of disrepair for so long was a significant factor in the investigation, in the internal investigation, and had a large role in those folks being able to escape.
Great. Judge, I'm going to ask you to show this witness Exhibit 15, please. And starting on page 6, this is the Respondent's Exhibit 15.
Okay, 1 second. I'm going to update my computer first, my log, before I do this.
Again, Judge, it seems as though Attorney Cross is looking at our old version of the exhibits. So,
Well, since he doesn't have the real one because you didn't give it to him, that would be
Well,
help. That's the
Judge,
problem.
Judge, again, he agreed to accept it via the Wisconsin box link. That's why we
He
didn't send it to
agreed
him.
not to do it because we all thought it was going to be the same exhibits. You're the one who changed it. So stop acting like it's his fault. So which?
I'm not asking,
what is it?
Judge, to be clear,
what
I'm not placing blame here. I just want to make sure that we're getting to the correct exhibit. If he's
So what
looking at the
exhibit?
old version, I think he asked to have attachment 15 brought up. If he's looking at the final Novak investigation packet, that's our new exhibit number 12.
Oh my God, we're going to have the new translation matrix. Yeah, so this is
Okay, so excuse me. So this is Sue Novak's investigation packet final. Is that the document you want, Mr. Cross?
Yes, thank you, Judge. We got it
Thank you. One
exactly.
second, please. Okay, this starts on page 152 of the respondent's exhibit.
And I'm in the 6th page of that, which is titled Employee Investigation Reports Investigatory
Well,
Interview.
I'm first marking my document and then we will get to
No
that.
problem, Judge. I'm sorry.
Judge, the other thing I would note is Mr. Cross did not identify this in his pretrial disclosures. I don't have an objection outside of that, but it is what it is.
Again, I'm not going to address that issue. You're not going to tell me that you're surprised by your own document. So I'm not going to really give that any credence whatsoever. All right, so I have Respondents Exhibit 12. And I have it as redacted, or not, excuse me, not redacted, but the pages from this document, which is the revised respondents documents, is pages 152 to 991. Is that correct? Is it that long?
I mean, the investigative packet is always pretty long.
Okay. Again, I've told you before, I'm not going to read this entire document. If you don't tell me there's something relevant in it, then I will not read all those pages. I simply don't have the time, and I'm not going to allow you to take up all my time by just throwing stuff into the record and expecting that I'm going to go looking for stuff to help your case. So I've got Respondents Exhibit 12, pages 152 to 991, Sue Novak's investigation packet final, and I will make that big, and then I will start to share. All right, I've got Respondents Exhibit 12, you said?
Yes, please.
That's it, and you said you wanted to go down
6
what would
pages
be-
from that, please, Judge.
well, I'm gonna just go down and you tell me when to stop.
I got it. It's the seal of the state and employee investigator reports is what it starts with. There it is. No more. That should be it. No, sorry.
Okay.
One more. That is it. That's the same page I'm on now.
This is the page you want?
Yes, please, for foundation
Okay, 1
purposes.
second, please. This is page 157. And let me write this down on my notes now. This is Respondents Exhibit 12. And it's the investigation of the complainant. And it is page 157 of the document. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Based on your role as Secretary for the Department of Corrections, can you identify this document?
I'm going to object. He already testified that he has not seen this investigation packet.
I don't know that. He said he didn't see whatever it was. I don't know if this is the packet he referred to. So, Secretary Carr, can you tell me if you saw this document?
I don't believe that I have. I mean, it's.
You need to go down a little bit more.
If it was included in a large volume of materials, it might have been in there, but I don't recall seeing it.
Okay.
Okay, can I ask the question I was going to ask now? Are you able to identify this document?
On its face, it's an employee investigation reports investigatory interview of Susan R. Novak.
Okay, and it's on a form 15807, right?
Yes.
Okay, and that's a form that you come into regular contact with as in your position as Secretary of the Department of Corrections?
It's a form that's routinely used in internal investigations.
Okay. So on that basis, Judge, I'm going to ask to have this entered as a business record. And
Object, Judge, this witness says that he's already testified that he hasn't seen this specific document. He's testified that he generally is aware of 15807s, not the specific one. He's not the keeper of records of this, or at least we haven't established that. I don't think there's been authenticity or foundation here. I understand that we might be able to do that with witnesses later on down the road, but this is not the proper witness to get this document in.
Are you saying that you submitted a document that's not correct? That the name you gave to the document and submitted to me is not accurate?
No, I'm saying it's proper to get this document in through a different witness, not this witness.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to allow Mr. Carr to testify to it, but I don't see how you can really object to the admission of this exhibit when it's your exhibit, unless you can tell me something more than you just want somebody else to identify it.
okay, Judge, so I'm on page 19, which is 13 pages.
I am waiting for Mr. Mullenbeck to respond to me. Are you got a response?
Yeah, I don't have any other objection other than foundation. I'm fine with using this document. That's fine.
Okay, so it's admitted again to both of you, and for everything else in this record, when you submit it, I mean, hundreds and hundreds of pages, I am not going to look at it unless you specifically have directed it to me, because I just don't have the time to go over 900 pages just for this one document alone. And I'm not going to find information that might be helpful to you. So you wanted this page, we've got response exhibit 12, page 157. We got the witness's testimony that it appears to be a certain type of document that he sees in his job. He didn't see this document. So what are you asking to do, Mr. Cross?
What I'd love to do is to go to page 19 of this document, 13 pages down, please.
Okay, again,
Could
I
I,
don't have any other numbering other than to
understand.
go down this
could I
way.
clarify something?
Sure. Did you think I misstated what you said?
I just want to make sure that everybody's clear when I said earlier that, as you acknowledged, Your Honor, that the investigative packet here is voluminous. And, could this document have been included in a large packet of materials that I received? Possibly. I don't recall it. I don't recall seeing this. My normal practice is to review the packet of an individual that I am considering for discipline, a week or so prior to doing so. And I don't have any recollection of reviewing this matter for Warden Novak.
Thank you for that clarification. Sir, do you read the entire, when you're considering discipline, do you read the entire packet?
For the individuals, for each specific individual, I do. I look at, in fact, the thing that I really hone in on is something called the predisciplinary report, because it is that the employee side of the story. I look at the investigative findings. I look at the predis, which is, the employee side of it. And then I look at, various interviews and other things that are in the packet. But those are the items that I do pay a lot of attention to.
Great. And going to this document here, did you understand this document to be a investigatory interview with between Joseph Sonnenberg, Matthew Polson, and Susan Novak?
That's